Karak karak, karak karak. That sound was the only constant in Kenji's world. It pulsed through the metal floor of the train, traveling up the worn soles of his shoes and drumming against his skull in a dull, steady rhythm. The last train on the Shu line, bound for Akishima, smelled faintly of damp wool, stale cigarettes, and that metallic trace of ozone after a hard rain. He was the only one left in the car. Rows of blue velvet seats stretched before him, empty, swaying gently under flickering fluorescent lights that hung weakly overhead. Something was off. Kenji knew this route like the back of his hand. He'd ridden it every single night for 15 years. But tonight, the train felt wrong, heavy, slow, as if it were dragging something unseen through thick water. He closed his eyes, trying to push away the memory of his project director's furious voice. "The Inunaki project is a stain, Kenji-san," the man had shouted, his breath heavy with expensive sake. "A stain that you made." Kenji hadn't replied. He'd only bowed lower, feeling the invisible weight of guilt pressing down on his chest. He had cut corners. He had ignored safety warnings. He had pushed his team beyond exhaustion to meet impossible deadlines. And then the structure collapsed. 3 men were gone. 3 names that would never leave his conscience. When Kenji opened his eyes again, the city lights outside the window had vanished. Only darkness remained. A tunnel. He frowned. There wasn't supposed to be a tunnel here, maybe a short one under an overpass. But not this. This felt deeper, older. The air grew colder. The rhythmic kara-kara disappeared, replaced by a slow, echoing thud dot 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 from unseen walls. Then the train began to slow down. Not the smooth glide before a stop. This was rough, uneasy. The brakes groaned, metal straining against metal, until the car shuddered and came to a halt. Silence. The buzz of the lights sounded painfully loud. Kanji held his breath, listening. No announcements. No footsteps from the conductor. Only his own heartbeat and something else. Chink dot 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 dot. Chink dot dot dot. Scrape dot dot. A sound like metal striking stone. His throat went dry. He turned toward the window, but the glass was fogged by his own breath and the chill from outside. He wiped a small circle clear with his sleeve and froze. Outside wasn't a modern tunnel of concrete and steel. It was rock uneven, roughly carved, damp and glistening under a dim light. Old construction lamps hung from cables along the wall, casting a sickly yellow glow that flickered like candlelight in a dream. And in that light, dot, 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 were workers. They stood with their backs to the train, only a few steps away, wearing dusty protective gear and yellow helmets. They were working, one rhythmically striking at the rock, another scooping earth, their motions slow, repetitive, and eerily synchronized. Kenji's exhaustion vanished, replaced by a slow, rising chill. He told himself this wasn't real. He'd been awake too long. He was dreaming, he had to be. He rubbed his eyes hard until spots of light danced behind his lids. When he opened them again, they were still there. One of the men stopped moving. He stood still, shoulders sagging. Then, gradually, his head began to turn. Not his body, just his head. It turned too far, too slow. The shadow under the helmet hid his face, but Kenji didn't need to see it. He recognized the posture. "Sato-san," Kenji whispered. Sato, the young engineer, who had warned him about the unstable foundations. The one he'd dismissed as overly cautious. As if hearing his name, the figure tilted its head upward slightly. The dim light caught 2 faint reflections beneath the helmet-like eyes, meeting his across a great distance. The second worker stopped. Then the third, emerging from the shadows near the wall, straightened up. Tanaka, the senior foreman, the first to die. Now, all 3 stood facing the train. Their bodies didn't move. Only the air between them seemed to tighten. Kenji felt rooted to the spot, unable to move. The air in the car thickened, heavy with the smell of metal and dust. Then, one of the men took a step forward. Slowly, deliberately. The faint yellow light made the shape of his arm tremble like a reflection in disturbed water. He stopped at the window, close enough that Kenji could almost feel him there. The worker lifted one gloved hand and pressed it gently against the glass. A dark smear spread outward dirt, moisture, maybe something else. Kenji stared, frozen, and then he saw something within that mark, shifting faintly, as if the stain itself were looking back at him. His breath caught in his throat. The worker raised his other hand. In it was a yellow helmet muddy, scratched, but strangely intact. He held it up, offering it toward Kenji. An invitation. "No," Kenji whispered, tears stinging his eyes. "Please, I'm sorry. I didn't mean for it to happen." The figures didn't move. They simply waited. Without warning, the train lurched violently. A shrill metallic scream filled the air. Kenji fell to the floor as the train began to move again. He scrambled up, clutching the seat, staring out the window as the tunnel walls blurred past. The workers didn't follow. They simply faded into the darkness. The yellow lamps dimmed until only the faint smear on the glass remained. Its shape burned into his memory. The train burst out of the tunnel into Tokyo's familiar light. The karak returned fast, desperate, human again. Kenji lay curled on the floor, shaking. Then came the chime. "Next stop, Akishima." Last stop. Doors will open on the left. The train slowed smooth this time. The station lights appeared. Kenji stood on trembling legs and grabbed his briefcase. As the doors hissed open, he stumbled out, collapsing onto the platform. He gasped for air, the night cold and sharp in his lungs, still carrying a faint trace of ozone. He was home. He was safe. It had all been a hallucination, a side effect of guilt and exhaustion. The doors closed behind him, and the train glided silently away. Kenji stayed on his knees, breathing hard. The platform was quiet. Too quiet. He looked up. The Akishima station was gone. No roof. No signs. No vending machines. Only bare, cracked concrete under a dim, flickering light. Around him wasn't the city. It was stone, dark, damp, endless. And overhead, a row of yellow construction lamps swayed gently, their light trembling across the rock ceiling. Kenji looked down. His hands no longer held a briefcase. They were gripping the smooth handle of a tool its surface worn, the faint scent of earth clinging to it. From the darkness ahead came a sound. Chink, dot, 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 chink, dot, 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 scrape, dot, dot. A tired, familiar voice echoed softly from within the stone. "You're late, Director. We still have work to finish. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story, please consider liking and subscribing for more content like this. It really helps the channel grow. Stay safe out there.